Okay. Yeah, sure. My name is Alex Johnson, so I'm the other Alex on the team. I'm 37 and three quarters years old, born in California. Been doing audio for games since 2006.
Hey, sorry, y'all. I need to interrupt. No one can hear Alex.
Oh man,
Alex
wait, which
Preston.
one?
We can hear
Oh
Alex
man.
Johnson.
Okay. Hey, you're just showing everybody the back of your head. Um, I'm gonna can hear you just fine. Hey, oh boy. Hold on. I'll be right back. I'm just gonna get him a treat. Oh, oh, well, get back on the bed. Come on.
All right, let me know. I'm testing this out and making sure. Um, E, can you help us out here and let us know if this is functioning now?
Yes, we can hear everybody now.
Great. I don't know why that audio device switched, but it did. All right, let's try again. Hi, everybody. Welcome. It's Friday. We have an Alex Johnson here. You did your intro. Sans my voice, so I think we're good to go on that front. It's a new year, so that means new technical problems, and as we figure them out, thanks for your patience. Okay, so Alex Johnson, you have a dog in the back there. What is that dog's name?
Yeah, this is Tank. Let's see. Tank is about 7 years old. My wife and I got him instead of an engagement ring when we got married. Uh,
That's a
so
good engagement present.
yeah, yeah, it was. We were figuring like you're spending the money anyway, and we always wanted. Well, she really always wanted a corgi. Yeah, so he's a real sweetheart. He still acts like a puppy. He's like a big linebacker. He's also about 10 or 15 pounds heavier than most other corgis. He's a big boy. They're usually like this, and he's like this.
He is pretty
Um,
big.
yeah, yeah, but it's not his fault. Anyway, yeah,
Tell us a
thanks
little
for
bit. Yeah, tell us a little bit about
yeah.
not the dog. A bit about your career and what you've been doing, how you got into games, how you got into
Yeah.
audio in the first place.
Yeah, I mean, game audio is it's an interesting career path, and it's one of those things that sort of it sounds exciting, but you kind of really have to be like very particularly interested in what goes into it, you know. And I think Alex, you are actually someone who I think is like very close to this, where like really feeling sound and really being into it, but also being into technology and problem solving, being into games, being into computers, like creating things, solving problems. It's making games is about um, both ingesting them and wanting to solve the puzzle of how do you make a game. And it's
Hmm.
kind of the same with audio. It's you enjoy taking it in, but you also enjoy like how do they do that and what can I do? And so these are sort of two um, parallel interests that when you talk to game audio people, like it's it's very comforting to meet other game audio people for me, because I grew up with like playing in bands, but being the guy in the band that had like a NES collection, and like going to LAN parties, but being the person who is also just like really interested in audio and sound. And so I went to college, and I thought that I was going to do IT. So
Why
it turned out to be-
IT?
I mean, I grew up in suburbia, and I didn't know anybody that did anything creative. Like, I didn't know anybody that had had a career doing like writing or doing these like creative arts and making money from it. So I had no template or example, no role model to go from. It just sort of felt like that's something other people do. Um, and I liked computers a lot. I'm from Northern California, so I had family that worked in Silicon Valley, and so it seemed like a very direct career path to like be an IT person. Um, so that's what I thought I was gonna do.
So then what made you break from that thought process? What happened to make you say, well, screw it on the IT front and start to dig into audio, specifically with games?
Sure, yeah. There are two things, which is the college I was going to. I was just at a community college, Las Medanas Community College in Pittsburgh, California, and they have a pretty good audio recording program. You'd go to the program, you'd learn how to record music, and then you'd go like get a job in San Francisco. It was like an hour's drive outside of San Francisco where I grew up. So that was like next door to the IT program, and I was just like starting to get a little depressed with like I didn't really like the IT stuff as it became more practical, and then my mom started to remind me about how I'd done like MIDI programming in DOS when I was a kid, and just on my own, like I somehow got a floppy drive with a cracked version of a program called Tabit, where you could go through and like insert notes and then play it through like the wavetable synth or whatever DOS had, and she encouraged me to rethink what I was doing, and to maybe try to do something else with computers, do something with audio and computers.
Sure.
And when I was a kid, I had been obsessed with game music, and I had always been obsessed with like NES music and thinking like, how do they program that? Like I remember playing Solstice on the NES as a kid, and I swear to God that like the title track to that game has probably got to be half the cartridge. It's so complex. And then just like Wizards and Warriors sounded so rad, and the Little Nemo Dream Master.
Yeah, Little Nemo had an amazing soundtrack.
It really does. Yeah. What's amazing is going back and looking at that stuff and seeing that the majority of the composers in that era in Japan were women.
Right.
Because composing was that was something that was like a creative field that women would do.
Right. I didn't learn about that until much later, and I was looking at like the soundtrack for Street Fighter original, like Street Fighter 2, and realized like, oh, there's a female composer. Didn't even know that at the time, and that was like a whole line of work that women could get into that field.
Yeah, and then which was otherwise male dominated.
Right.
And I didn't know that either, because how would you know? I don't know Japanese names, and I'm 10 years old in suburban California, like in the early 90s. So so I'd had an interest in it, and my mom encouraged me, and I'd kind of just continued to develop it. I got out of college during the Great Recession, right before Obama was elected, and So like 2005, 2006, I was getting out of college. Everything was starting to like just crumble, and people were doing home recording. So the money that somebody would spend to like go to a studio that would keep a studio afloat, like they would either be recording it in their bedroom or there's not enough money to go around to do that kind of thing. So right when I was graduating from college, all of those studios closed, like all these classic studios in San Francisco.
Well, San Francisco was still changing at the time too.
Yeah, and it has since, but I've been gone. Because like I thought I was gonna graduate college, move to San Francisco, and record bands. But then I had a friend that lived in LA that I knew from a Warcraft guild. We were in the Penny Arcade Warcraft guild at the time, and he he invited me to come down and sleep on his couch for a week, and I found an internship and started doing audio for TV. And then that company was like it was a larger company, and I kind of transitioned into into the branch that did audio for games, and stayed with them for a long time, like until like 2017 or so, like 10 or 11 years.
I'm curious. You said you did audio for TV. Were there any like popular shows that you worked on?
I was working when I was working for TV. When I was working in the TV studio, I was like straight up PA. So I was working for, like the way they do it is you have like you have these like mix stages, and the mix stage is like about the size of my living room, which you can't really see all of, and it's got a big mixing console on it, and you got like 2 or 3 people sitting there at the mixing console. Like one person does dialogue, and and then there's somebody that's like controlling the mix. Sorry, let me get my. I feel like I'm not a.
You're all right.
Okay.
I think it's just the stream quality.
Okay, sounds good. So then they'd have like a room with like the dedicated crew of people that work in that room, and it takes like 2 or 3 days to mix an hour of TV. And so they'd have their regular shows, and the show comes through, and they just like each stage does like 2 or 3 shows a week. And I worked for a company in a building that had like 8 stages. So you'd have rotating clients coming in. You'd have like a big team on each stage. There'd be like 10 people on each stage, or 5 people on each stage, and I'd like make coffee and like drive tapes across town and do that kind of thing. So and I did that for I don't know, like 2 years.
And then, so you started to get into games audio because of that company in particular. What was the first thing that you worked on in games?
It was the very first game that I ever worked on was it was a Metal Gear Solid whatchamacallit, the like a action comic, like an animated comic.
I see.
So yeah, you buy it, and it's a video that pans through all the frames, and it's voice acted and everything.
Was it something you get like on your browser or your phone or something?
I really don't remember. I think that it was on consoles. Like I think that you would get it on the console.
Wow, I don't remember those at all.
No, it was the first time I'd heard of it.
Like I'd seen action comics like that, but I didn't know that you could even have them on consoles back in like 2008, I guess that is, right?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you were working on action comics, so that's, that's a pretty interesting venue. What was next? Like, what was the next kind of like legit
Well, the company
project
that
for
I
you?
began, I'd moved from the TV branch to their game audio branch. When I had another round of luck, I kind of keep getting pushed by these things. There was a big writer's strike, so they stopped making TV shows for like 6 or 7 months in
That's right.
2007.
Or they just had bad writing and a lot of stuff for a while.
They did because they just had like, executive producers and whatever, like
I can write.
everything. Yeah, and it's like no, there's a craft to this. There's a process. There's
I don't think so. I think writing's easy peasy. I don't know what you're talking about.
yeah, like haircuts.
Yes.
Um,
Anybody could be a barber, a writer, or
Yeah.
a trash man. You know, that's all those.
So money stopped rolling into the TV space, and I moved to the game audio branch, which is what I wanted to do, and ended up in the VO booth, where I was, assistant engineer in engineering, and so recording dialogue for games, and when you do that, it's a similar kind of thing. Like you have stuff rolling through. Like you have people in the front office, they're making deals, or like you're just like, I have no say in what's coming in, and it comes in, and it's just every day is packed.
Making deals and make it sound interesting.
Yeah, and it's like we would do. So let's see, there were like worked on a lot of stuff through this though. Like I think one of the first big games I did was SOCOM 4.
Okay.
The Prince of Persia remake that they did, that actually people compare Solar Ash to.
What, the 2008 one?
Yeah, and Halo Wars. I ended up worked on Halo Wars, which then I ended up working on Halo Wars 2 years later, in a design and implementation capacity, and that was weird.
Why was that weird? What was weird about that?
Well, because Ensemble Studios was shut down, so like it was
Sure.
done by like Microsoft owned the IP, and so and I made some pretty good friends with people at Ensemble, because you work on the game and you're recording the dialogue, and this was a really good way to like learn about like the meat and potatoes of game, like narrative and like tutorialization, and also to see it change at that time, because that was a time where we were really kind of, I feel like games were transitioning to being modern. It was an interesting time to be involved. But you end up you'd be working on a AAA game. They record for like 2 weeks at a time, in these like 2-week bursts, and basically like we're working on Prince of Persia, so like these 3 guys fly down from Montreal, and they sit in the studio with you. It's the writer, it's the audio director, it's some producer or something, and between them they determine how like what the game's needs are, like adjusting lines on the fly, looking for things that aren't working. So everybody's kind of got a role, but you're getting to know them as well, because you're sitting with them like 50 hours a week. For,
Sure.
Months.
So, from working on VO stuff and other things at that studio, how did that transition or translate to working more directly on like the sound design of different products?
Yeah, that over time, I was able to I kind of VO, like it feels like there's this ceiling of what you can do, or in terms of what I was interested in doing with it. So I really wanted to move over to sound design, and I started working on. They would give me like mobile games to work on. So
do you remember your first mobile game?
The first thing I did was phone ringtones for an office, for like an office phone, and I don't remember the name of that.
Ooh.
And
Do you
then
still
it was
have those phone ringtones somewhere that you did, like archived?
I don't, because everything I did with that company stayed with that company. Which
You
is
didn't
fine.
steal some things on the back
No,
end?
I didn't. No.
Okay.
Though they did have an insane library, because that company is like that company is like 300 or 400 audio people, and they get contracted out to do everything. So they do. It's like and you watch movies. It's like The Hobbit, and like there's
Sure.
I think. I mean, I don't know. Like Blade Runner. Like there's just everything. They're just
Sure.
everywhere. and the library is a centralized library that was on a network, and so it's just many terabytes of sounds. You just
I'm
dig in and
sure.
get like stuff
It,
from like Jurassic Park and Kill Bill and Gladiator. And,
probably a
yeah,
lot of everything's all cataloged and licensed and all the
yeah,
appropriate bits and bobs that you
yeah,
need to have. So
yeah,
then, how did you transition from more mobile stuff into non-mobile, into like consoles or PC stuff, into
yeah,
games that you would actually care about and play?
yeah, exactly. Um, uh, well, yeah, I started to work on uh, VR. They kind of started to spin up. So my thing, like the difficulty with me and working for this company is that it's a very design focused company. They want to make sound effects that are awesome, and they want to do mixes that are awesome. They want to do record VO that sounds good, and that's the focus, and that's what they're like insanely good at. Um, if you play like God of War, or I mean, like
Hmm.
it's we would work on like Naughty Dog games and so on. Uh, so yeah, I started to work on like The Last of Us One was one of the first ones where I I really got to do some stuff. Though my main role in that was to um, uh, help manage the pipeline of how you record Foley. So if you're going to record Foley, it's expensive to be on the stage. It's like several $1,000s a day,
Oof.
and the stage comes with somebody who's going to record the stuff in two what they call Foley walkers, and
Hmm.
it's a big room with like tons of props and shoes and like a sand pit and water and all this, and what you have to do is you have to get your Pro Tools project, have the video in there, and you do what you call spotting, which is you make a blank audio file that is the right length for like here's a section where somebody's walking, and you would do the research of like you'd kind of like look at it and figure out like okay, this is a sneaker, or this is the character's name, and this is the type of surface, and you do all the footsteps, and
Hmm.
then on the stage they don't have to like peer at the screen. They just can look through the list of files and say like, okay, we're gonna do all of this character. Like, let's get the sneakers out and like, okay, here's all the tiles, and then here's all the dirt, and then okay, what's the next thing? Um, so I spotted uh, all the Foley the in the Last of Us. I think. I mean, probably somebody else did some as well. And then Uncharted 4, I did maybe half of it or more cinematics in that game, and there's a lot more to do.
Hmm.
Um, and my responsibilities there kind of expanded to like managing, helping manage the time of like the mixing and getting all that languages done.
How was that
Yeah,
experience on the stage? Like, was that a lot of fun? I mean, it sounds like kind of a blast.
yeah, it is. I mean, like you don't go out there and throw things around yourself. Like
What?
you're paying someone a lot of money to do it, so uh, you don't really get to do it yourself. Um, uh, yeah, and let's see. I went from that to doing like VR projects. Oh, and I had been saying, I'm sorry. I like how games come together. I like how the systems interact. I really want it to be involved in like implementation, making things real, like making them happen, like solving those problems, and
Hmm.
the problem of putting together a game, and that's not really what that company did. Uh,
Sure.
and so I'd
So,
be working on this kind of on these on this kind of stuff where you're kind of like the cog in the machine. But then when VR exploded, then I got to like work on these small projects and be like one or two people.
hmm.
Um, so one of them I did was the Mission ISS experience. So you're on the International Space Station, and you can like throw objects around and stuff. So yeah.
So then from there, I know at some point you started working
Hmm.
on Ori, uh,
Yep.
How did that?
Yeah, Ori and the Will of the Wisps.
Mhm.
So that was an extension of the like working through that, and at that point I was actually freelance and doing design with that company, and had signed on to do Ori and the Will of the Wisps, which uh, ended on March 13th, 2019, which was my birthday, and the state of emergency announcement from President Trump. So I'd been crunching for like 6 months, and had like a trip to Vegas planned and everything with my wife. And then,
Then the world stopped for a while.
yeah, stuck at home. And then I was doing game jams, and that's how I met Troop, who was was working on Solar Ash at Heart Machine, and y'all needed a sound designer. Here I am.
Here you are. So then you worked on Solar Ash with us for a while, and we have a few videos here that we can go through. I'm going to jump into some media sharing as my cat meows very loudly. All right, so we have a video here about the Ray voice processing. Do you want to talk about this with me for a little bit?
Actually, maybe could we watch the one with the tank first? That's a pretty good intro.
Sure.
Yeah.
There we go.
Tank, do you want a treat? Tank, speak.
Oh, you can't. I'm not hearing
Tank,
the sound.
speak. Good boy.
Okay.
Okay.
Right.
Lost radio contact. Suppose I should have seen that coming. It's just you and me now, old girl. I've fought in 3 planetary wars. Seen it. Lost radio contact. Suppose I should have seen that coming. It's just you and me now, old girl. I've fought in 3 planetary wars. Seen entire cities leveled by fire from the sky. All child's play compared to what's at stake here. And this void ain't no place for an old dog and her man. No days, no nights. Downright.
Give him a treat. No, all he wants is treat.
Tank, up.
Okay. Yeah, you're not going to be able to hear these things, unfortunately.
Yeah, that's okay.
As long as the stream
got
can hear
worried.
it.
Yeah, I got worried, but then I unmuted the stream and I could hear it.
Right. Okay, so tell us a little bit about what was going on there.
Yeah, that was pretty fun. I mean, I've got this dog that I love, and there's a role in the game where we needed a dog to bark Irving, who again Troop plays Irving. So we needed these barks in the background and a variety of them. And actually, the barks that you hear in the recording are I got those in the car, because when I take him on a car ride, like I take him to the park, he just goes nuts. And so I just took him into the car and set up my recorder, and got like much more frantic barking than what he'll do at home. So I was able to record him, chop it up, get it into the game, like line it into the recordings that we got from Troop. And now he has an IMDb page.
It's true. All right. Well, we have another clip here. What are we going to be seeing in this? Like, what software you use, and like, what is this really showcasing?
Sure. Okay. Yeah. So this is I use Reaper from my design work. Reaper is what you call a DAW, digital audio workstation. And it's very extensible. It's inexpensive. It's you can get it for I think $60. You can use it for free, but the license is $60. And the way that you do audio and sound design is you get your audio, you put it on a track, and then on the track you can insert these plugins, and the plugins do digital signal processing. So where you may have had like a reverb tank or like a guitar pedal where like the audio comes in one end and goes out the other and gets modified in between. That happens through these plugins, which are agnostic to what software you use them in. So these are separate pieces of software that get injected in, and so then a lot of the work is deciding which tool or which plugin is which combination is gonna get the right sound that you want at the end of the chain. So with the voice processing, we really needed these characters to sound, needed them to sound like somewhat otherworldly. Never wanted anybody to just sound human. Ray's got a mask on all the time, so trying to get some sort of like radio filtering, some kind of like doubling and resonance. So this is a demonstration where I'm gonna like you hear the audio at first, and then I turn everything off, and then I turn it on kind of piece by piece and fiddle with the knobs,
Sure.
and you can hear the different things that these could be doing if I had them set up differently.
Okay, let's take a look.
Can you contact the rest of the Void Runners now that the interference is gone?
Turning some things off.
I'm just glad you're back online. Can you contact the rest of the Void Runners now that the interference is gone? I'm just glad you're back online. Can you contact the rest of the Void Runners now that the interference is gone? I'm just glad you're back online.
This is just a delay.
Can you
and I'm
contact the rest of the
cranking on
Void Runners now that the interference is gone?
that. You can hear different things I could be doing with it.
Yeah.
I'm just glad you're back online. Can you contact the rest of the Void Runners now that the interference is gone?
Yeah, and Troop is right.
I'm just glad you're back online.
With this role.
Can you contact the rest of the Void Runners now that the interference is gone? I'm just glad you're back online. Can you contact the rest of the Void Runners now that the interference is gone? I'm just glad you're back online. Can you contact the rest of the Void Runners now that the interference is gone?
Okay. Sorry, I'm going to cut a little short because we're getting shorter on time here.
Yeah, sorry, I've been kind of talkative.
Let's jump to the next one.
Yeah.
We have one here. So I believe there's a big giant remnant in here. What are we going to be seeing for this?
So this is the like the vocalization and the impact for this remnant has a big sword attack where it slams it into the ground. So it's pretty much that.
Let's do it. Okay.
Yeah. So here I've got these layers. And this is a camel.
Mm-hmm.
That's an air hose, which is going, you know. That's an elephant.
It's an elephant?
Yeah, the big one on the bottom is an elephant, and then the very bottom one is actually Scott, who recorded vocals for music in this section. I helped write the music for it.
So where do you get, some of those sounds, like an elephant, for example?
Actually, if you could pause real quick. Yeah.
Yeah, it's paused.
Okay, great. You get them from there are audio library companies, and so someone will go to a bunch of zoos and record a bunch of animals and pack it together with good metadata that's searchable. And I've got hundreds of libraries, about 100,000 files at this point that you just kind of keep amassing. You buy things when you need them or when they go on sale.
Mm-hmm.
and get a lot of. And you need a good variety of material, and especially with voice, you can't really manipulate yourself. You can't manipulate your way into having a good voice. You have to have like strong vocal content to begin with.
Sure.
Or it's just an insane uphill battle. So dogs, camels, elephants, these kind of things really go a long way. Then you pipe them through the plugins, like I was talking about with I talked about before,
Right.
and like using something like a resonator to really bring out feel like there's a vocal, like a chest cavity. And actually in this video, one of the big things that I learned in doing this project, if you back up to the part with where there was the reverb plugin in the upper right, yeah. So this thing.
We want to play it first.
Yeah, we can play it.
So. Right, so you have the reverb plugin.
Yeah. Yeah, and I did one where I played it without the plugin, and it sounds very flat. But I can talk about it. We don't necessarily need to hear it. The big thing that I learned on this project, so this would be like what I wish that another sound designer had told me before I worked on this project, is if
Sure.
you're doing a huge voice, don't go after big long delays and reverbs.
Why not?
Because it just sort of sounds like something's far away and like making sound somewhere else. And instead what I did was I would at almost unity gain just do this very short ambient reverb, which is something you would do for like you would hear if you're like in a closet or something. Like no tail. It's a 1/4 second tail on this thing. And that's because like it's so loud that it's making everything shake, So that was something I figured out like halfway through this project, because I'd tried all these different things to try to make this sound huge, and that turned out to be it. Just like a very short reverb, which is not what you'd expect.
No. Well, let's listen to a little bit more of this.
Sure.
And feel free to kind of narrate as we're going through this.
So the impact had to be split out into different components. So this is I think this is the metal sweetener sound. So if you're close, you kind of hear this ringing metal. Let's see.
Yeah, your stream's going to be a little delayed, so.
That's fine. And then we have like a acid, because you could have this happen on acid, or you could have it happen on sand. I like on the acid one sounds, so that's the one I'm demoing.
Right.
So again, like games are a puzzle, and you have these component pieces because you have these different ways that things can play out. You could be close to it, you could be far away, it could hit acid, it could hit sand, and you kind of have to think, how few pieces can I make to have this work? And then this is the distant one. So if you're far away, you only hear this big distant slam.
It's like a thunder crack.
Yeah, exactly. And if you're close, you hear it too. But like it's much tighter to hear like that close one, like the splash and stuff. Because that sounds weird if you're far away.
Yeah.
So this is kind of what the puzzle is with games and what you do. I think that's pretty good for this video.
Okay. Just good stuff in there. And then we got one more here. And then we're going to do some questions for folks.
Yeah. So this is, I'll talk, you can start playing it.
There are still problems.
Sid's
The star
voice
seed is
processing,
non-operational,
and the core
and
for
your
voice
planet is in peril.
processing are these really tiny delays. These little granular delays. So I mess with her stuff a little bit in this demo, but like the really
Incorrect.
fun one is
There are
the
still
delays.
problems. The The starseed is non-operational, and your planet is in peril. Incorrect. There are still problems. The starseed is non-operational, and your planet is in peril.
Yeah, this is the
Incorrect.
like wild pitch
There are
shifter
still
that
problems.
we used a lot
The
on the
starseed
project.
is non-operational,
It's an
and
infected
your
mushroom
planet is in
manipulator.
peril. Ah, we understand.
There's quite a few layers that need to go into any of these
Incorrect. There are
Yeah, and they kind
at
of
any given time.
still
Yeah,
problems.
and it's
The
like if
starseed
you
is non-operational,
like
and your
just dialing
planet
one
is in
in
peril.
isn't the goal. It's how do they all work together. So you end up
Incorrect.
like
There are
going
still
through
problems.
and like tweaking
The
and tweaking and
starseed is
tweaking.
non-operational, and your
Oh,
planet
here we go. This
is
is the
in peril.
granular delay that I used.
Incorrect. There are still problems. The starseed is non-operational, and your planet is in peril. All right.
So I'm changing the delay length so now they're longer. And then in this video, I also flip it so that they're all reversed instead of playing forwards. So
Okay.
it's dividing the sound up into like it's like, you know, there's 20 of these playing at a time, and they're all different pitches, so they're different speeds, and
There are still problems. The starseed is non-operational, and your planet is in peril.
but even the reverse, like if you shorten it, it's still intelligible and a little
Right.
more insane than what we wanted for her.
A little bit more.
That's yeah. So that's not the way that we went.
There are still problems. The starseed is non-operational, and your planet is in peril.
I'm gonna jump ahead a little bit.
Yeah, sure.
Incorrect. There are still problems. The starseed is non-operational,
Metallic
and your planet
voice
is
in the
peril.
can.
Yeah, that was one. Like, I mean, even though she's a hologram, I wanted it to sound like there's just the idea of like, oh, there's a voice box, and it, you know,
Sure.
like if you imagine C-3PO with his like thin metal mouth, and
Mhm.
you know, that's not physically what she is, but it's like design is about intent and how something feels like psychologically, and so it's like, yeah, she is an artificial life form, and that is the feeling that we want to reinforce. Like kind of dialing in this resonator just a little bit, just to give it that touch.
Incorrect. There are still problems. The starseed is non-operational, and your planet is in peril. Incorrect. Ah,
I think we're good.
we
We're
understand.
just kind of messing around with more of the.
All right. Well, I mean, even just one voice in the game seems like, you know, that took quite a few hours to get correct. You know, like Sid, for example, because we are doing, you know, all this manipulation for these kind of sci-fi characters who are like holograms or, you know, wearing masks or creatures that wouldn't typically be in our world. You know, how long does, for example, Sid take for you to figure out?
Took a while.
What is a while?
Yeah, well, I mean, I didn't do it all at once. What the approach was because we had a pretty small VO crew, and so I ended up. I was not only processing it but editing it. So I would receive all the audio, and we'd have determined we did it because of COVID. We did it over Zoom, so these actors are at home, and we're recording them. We're on a Zoom call. They're recording on their end, and then I get the file from them. And you know, independently, like we've got our own other Zoom call where we're discussing like, okay, this is the one that we want. This is the other one. Like, let's not use that one. And you want to be able to just speak frankly about what material you want to use, and not worry about the actor hearing you. So I'd have these two recordings. You know, you have the control room recording and the booth recording from the house. Put them in the session together, and just listen through and like listen to our opinions and like the way that we wanted to assemble lines, and then cut their stuff and put it together. And there's so much of this. Like Frida's session is 50 hours long.
It's a good chunk of time.
Yeah, there's just a lot in there. I mean, there's space between the files, but it's just
Sure.
huge. Just
Yeah,
took forever.
we spent days in the rooms with
Yeah.
these different VO folks, and
Yeah,
you know,
thousands of takes.
right. And then we would go through and pick out the parts that we liked on all the different takes. But specifically on the processing, you know, what does that take to do Sid, for example? Like, how many raw hours would it take you specifically on Sid?
Yeah, I mean, I think because it's such a key thing and you hear it so much, put a lot of time into it. Maybe a day or two. But the way that I would do it is I'd be chopping this stuff up, and then when it started to feel like my mind was numb, then I would start to just like work on the processing. And I've got the processing active because I'm pulling all the stuff and putting it on a track that has all these plugins on it. So I'd hear it and then and be like, okay, and then you know kind of dial things here and there, and then you know when I get really sick of like working on of like assembling the voiceover, then spend like an hour messing with how her voice is processed, and then when I
Right.
get sick of that, then go back to like editing the dialogue. And I did that probably for the first I don't know, week or so of editing her. So I bet if you added it up, it would be 8 or 9 hours. That was, you know, and then at a certain point you got to stop and just, you know, like I kept like I'd be like, oh, and how about this? How about this? As soon as I hit on something where I'm like, actually this sounds pretty good, then I'd kind of check in with everybody, and we'd say, oh no, we gotta like let's pull back on the doubling, let's pull back on the resonator, let's push more of this, need it to sound more like, you know, crisp and
Sure.
like radio, and you know, more or less artificial, and then like go back and make tweaks. So it was a very iterative process.
Yeah, I mean, as is everything that we end up doing on games is so iterative and takes so much time. Okay, well, Alex, thanks for sharing your insights and thoughts on all this stuff and the videos, and especially kind of digging deep on the behind the scenes on, you know, what goes into even just a single voice, you know, is quite a process for us. We have some questions that we want to get to before we head out of here, so I'm going to jump on in. So first question comes from Pencil King, 2002. Why King of Pencils in 2002 is my question to you, Pencil King. But your question is, can you name an occasion where you felt that a sound effect or musical piece was really successful in helping the storytelling aspect of Solar Ash?
Yeah, it's hard to like. I think that at this point, for me to talk about the storytelling, you have to. There's a little bit of spoiler territory, which is why we also didn't do this. We talked about doing this heart to heart before the game came out and decided against it. So with Ray, there's a lot going on inside her head. And when I was working on this game, I tried to always think about what does Ray think that she hears versus just what's physically around her. And so there are some things in the game that are they're kind of small, but they're conducive to this. So when you are fighting a remnant and you get to that third phase and you're going up to the kill, and like once you hit the penultimate relay and you're on your way to the final one, there's this increasing volume of whispers, which was actually something we recorded Frida doing. We processed her voice and made this whisper loop that sort of gradually comes in, you know, so she's hearing all these voices that are her in her own head. There was another one which is if you look at the planet, like there's a planet that's hanging in the sky in the game, and if you stop and you look at it long enough, then you'll get this. You start to hear these sounds of, like, you know, maybe what are the people on the planet, or it's kind of creepy stuff. There's like this children playground sound that I found.
That is creepy.
Yeah. I think I pumped it through like that granular delay with like really long delays and did some interesting stuff with it. Yeah, and the starseed. Anywhere that you're in the game, and as long as you're not blocked by a wall, if you look at starseed, you hear it. You hear it way louder than you should, and that's because that's what's going on in Ray's mind. It's not reality.
Yeah. Okay. Well, there's a lot of intense sounds that happen around the starseed and with the planet that we'd had at different times. And the starseed itself has some really cool sounds that happen when you get on top of it and kind of near the tail end of the game. There's a lot of intense things going on there. I'm going to jump to a new question here. Iichu asks, what is one iconic sound effect from a video game that makes you think, wow, I wish I were responsible for creating that?
Let's see. I mean, like, just honestly, the question that comes to mind is not a single sound effect, but like the entire soundscape of Super Metroid.
Mm-hmm.
Just there's something that like games as a creation. There's an art form to it that is separate from fidelity and separate from like just how neat things sound, and so the like honest to God achievement of how well Super Metroid sticks the landing at a time when games are not thinking about this emotional aspect that often. Just going through different areas and getting the mood, like the loneliness when you get an upgrade and right after, and it just feels so like you're on your own. And I really attribute like my love for that game to much of it to the atmosphere and the sound. So like games as an art, me wishing that I'd been the somebody who had done something, like, oh my God, like it's so well crafted. Doesn't matter that it was a long time ago. It
is very well crafted. It is one of my favorite soundtracks and one of my favorite audio experiences in a game. I wish you had done that too. BKVD asks, what's your favorite sound you worked on in Solar Ash?
It is probably I really like the impacts that the sword dragger makes as it's stomping around, and the shrieks from there's another remnant that the voice has no organic element. Instead it really was just like shearing metal and stuff to make these kind of crazy shrieks and stuff. And there's a you're charging up the starseed through the game, and when it's fully charged, it starts to make this sound that is just so like otherworldly and satisfying. And honestly, it took me like 45 minutes or something to make, like not much time at all. And I really love it. It's this weird, like crispy, distorted. Like it doesn't sound real, and it doesn't sound real in the sense like it sounds too powerful to be real. And I was trying to do that, and I did like 150% of what I was trying to do, and I was so happy.
Gotcha. Yeah, there are some definitely crispy sounds. I like the word crispy to describe. I think you've got a particular style that is crispy. I'll toss in one more question here because we're just about out of time. So we got a couple here that are Corn Mayor. That's a good name, Corn Mayor. A question about Sid. They have a different intonation while online and in offline modes. Was it made intentionally?
Oh yeah. So put her through something that made her kind of monotone. Chopped up the files because she's got 3 states. She's got very, very broken. She's got I'm turned on, but I'm in safe mode, so that's not glitchy, but it's monotone. And then she's got, I keep saying she, it's a they, I'm sorry. Um, uh, she, it's both plural and non-binary. They are then very like warm and friendly, and they know you. So to do the monotone one, yeah, just like there's that resonator. Really cranked the resonator because again, that's what makes her sound artificial. Piped it through something that makes it monotone. I keep saying her because the actress was Pilar Uribe.
Yeah, no worries.
So I keep thinking about her and her voice because I spent all this time listening to the unprocessed voice and transforming it into this very pluralized thing output. Yeah, so absolutely intentional. That was something that we wanted to do to help tell the story.
Yeah, there is a lot of detail that goes into, I mean, all the aspects of the game, but when we're talking about game audio, a lot of different discussions about the characters, a lot of different discussions about, how they should sound, what types of voices we're really trying to give them. And even with the kind of modulation of it all, there was not just work on it, but just lots of discussion on it too. Feedback and what have you, back and forth that end up occurring. So it's quite a process when you look at the full scope of things, and it's rarely just one decision at a time. There's usually a lot of things coming into help make those decisions, and even something as simple as like, oh yeah, this character's on or this character's off, and what that intention even was could be really a thing to dig into on multiple fronts. So I think we've come up on our time here. Sorry for folks that didn't get their questions answered, but thanks for sending in questions, and thanks for bearing with us on the technical challenges that I had here at the beginning. First time back for the year. We're going to start doing these more regularly. We'll announce some scheduled changes and differences, but now that we're back for the year, now that we're a little more settled, now that we're a little more comfortable, we'll let everybody know what our future holds on streams and beyond. So keep your eyes and ears peeled. That's a really gross saying, I guess. Like, do you peel them back? Like grapes or something? Don't do that. Just we'll post stuff up and let people know. Thanks for joining up, everybody. Alex Johnson, thanks for sharing your knowledge and your experience with us and videos. I appreciate
But before we go, I want to say you trimmed your beard. You look real handsome. New year, new you. No, it looks good.
Okay, thank you. I did trim my beard because COVID is scary and masks work less well when you have a beard, so had to go.
Your functional adjustment is aesthetically pleasing.
It'll grow back. It'll get bushy again real soon. This is one day. I shaved it clean yesterday. This is just instant. No, it's not one day. All right. Thanks, everybody. Thanks, Alex Johnson, and we'll see everybody next time around. Bye.